Hare Krishna.
Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Rajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Nirata Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jairata Madhava Kunja Bihari Jairata Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo. Jai Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Haribol. So today I'm going to read from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's quite an advanced scripture, actually, very very advanced. But I can tell you're all ready for it. You want something which is very uplifting. The Bhagavatam was written down about 5,000 years ago, but it has been in existence in human society from the very beginning. Can everyone understand me there? It's okay. I'm going to speak kind of a little slower. It is it's called the Spotless Purana, which means that it's one of the Puranas which has, it's probably, how would you put it? It has it was specifically written for this time and circumstance. It's specifically written for the phase that we're in at the moment, which is called Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So that's the main description of this particular age. So if anyone thinks that this is a very difficult time, that's okay. It is. It's meant to be. It's kind of like the winter time, and but we do need a lot of support in this time. So our understanding is that Lord Krishna, he incarnated in the scripture at this time, so that he could help, that we could get help very readily. I mean, our understanding is that Krishna, as the super soul, is in all our hearts. Krishna's in every atom. God is in every atom, and he's also with us in our heart. And in that way, he gives us prompts. He's always wanting us to turn to the spiritual dimension. And that's what he does. He's while he's there. So he appears in different ways. He appears in scripture. He appears in the holy name. Hallowed be thy name. It's a famous Christian understanding. And also in the devotees. It's called the book of Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. In other words, saintly people. And saintly people have historically come in society, and their main mission is to help people understand the circumstance that they're in the material world, and to ask them or to get them to remember their spiritual reality, who they actually are. So I'll just say a little prayer at the beginning, and you can just repeat after me as well, or for anyone who can sing along with me actually if you want. Amagina timirandasya Gyanadhyana Jalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Jai. So it's quite interesting. For the place that I'm going to talk about today is Dhruva Maharaj. Does anyone here has heard of Dhruva Maharaj? Hands up, who's heard of Dhruva Maharaj? It's like some people have, right? Okay. Dhruva Maharaj is a character from antiquity. He's actually, this was written 5,000 years ago, but it's understood that Dhruva Maharaj, according to the history of this Srimad Bhagavatam, he appeared millions of years ago, which kind of goes against a lot of what the modern scientific kind of, or dating and so on, goes on. But we won't worry about that for the moment, because modern science has got a very limited perception of reality, and a very limited focus in which it can actually observe things in reality. Okay, I normally don't take questions at the start, but I'll John, thank you. Thank you for very much. What question were you going to ask there?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if not, like, I mean, are you saying that it was like 1 million years ago on this earth, or was it like a number of planets?
Oh, good question. Yeah, it's not stated where it was, but it's in this planetary system. From the Vedic understanding, there is millions of universes. This is only one small universe in that sense. So it's a history from antiquity, actually. So it doesn't say exactly where.
Right.
You know.
So it's like a parallel universe?
Well, actually, no. I'll correct myself there. It's from this universe, but our perception of what this universe is somewhat limited as well. Right. You know, it's very difficult for us to understand things which are on different dimensions with our present material senses. And funny, that's the basis of what the class is going to be about as well, is developing an inner vision or spiritual vision, which gives us kind of extra scope to understand reality.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, thank you. Good question. So Dhruva Maharaj lived all that time ago, and it's very interesting because he was meant to be a king, or he was an heir, but he wasn't the only heir. He had a brother who could have been the heir as well, and but he was coming from a very strong lineage. They were called Kshatriya rulers. So his father was a great ruler. So it was understood that the progeny would also be very good. But at the time, there was the king had 2 wives. One wife was called Surichi, and the other was called Suniti. But Surichi was the king's favorite, and so it would looked that her son would be the next heir. So Dhruva Maharaj, he one time he wanted to play on his father's lap, and but his other son was there as well, who I forget his name. I'm not sure. Can anyone know Dhruva's brother? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not so important. But he was playing on his father's lap, and Dhruva wanted to get on as well because it's his dad. He just wanted to get up on his lap and have the dad give him a cuddle or whatever it was. And Uttama, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's actually there's a meaning in both those words, Surichi, the mother, and Uttama as well. It's interesting. But But all of a sudden, the mother, Surichi, forbade him to do so. She says, you shouldn't be with your father's on your father's lap like that. You have to. She basically made out that it was her son who had preference and priority. And Dhruva, being a boy of 5 years old, he wasn't to know that, or he was very unhappy by it. But because he was also a king, a Kshatriya, he was very upset by it. So he ran to his mother, and he asked her, "What's the story? I'm the king. You know, why can't I go on my father's lap?" And the mother became very morose, and she said, "Well, it's the fact that she's his favorite wife, so it looks like it's her progeny is going to be the king." So she said that, but don't be too depressed about it. There's nothing you can really do. But if you want to take some recourse, just go to the forest, and that's where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. Now, the Supreme Personality of God is everywhere, but a lot of sages at that time, they used to go to the forest to meditate and to meditate on God. Because, you know, if you go out into Grafton Street or Collins Street, you're trying to meditate, you know, there'll be lots of disturbances there. It won't be so easy. So they used to go to the forest, basically. So she told him to go to the forest. But because he was a young boy, but he was a great Kshatriya king, he immediately took away to the forest and wanted to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to know why he wasn't allowed to be the next king, you know. So I'm hearing myself. Let me see. Sorry. So on his way there, he met a great saint and sage called Devarshi Narada, or Narada Muni. And Narada Muni was amazed. Narada is one of these persons who actually could travel in outer space, whatever planet in the planetary system. He was a very empowered sage. He had that ability to go anywhere. I don't know if you got kind of from a Christian background, you kind of hear angels and people like that. You know, they have that ability to go from the spiritual world or whatever. There's a lot of there's parallels anyway in different spiritual systems. But Devarshi Narada was like that, and he stopped him and said, "Little boy, what's wrong with you? Why are you so upset?" Because he was amazed that this little boy was running to the forest, because the forest was a dangerous place. I mean, there was animals, there's wild animals there. It's not where's he going to get his food, whatever. And so he told him that, listen, don't worry about it. You're just upset because he knew what was the background as well. Your father didn't take you on his knee that time. Don't worry about it. You're only a child. It'll be no problem. You know, you forget about it. You know, but because Narada basically told him that's what a sage does. A sage is able to tolerate, you know, ups and downs, very winter and summer, you know, all types of. A saint is able to tolerate all the different paradoxes in nature. You know, the things that happen. Sometimes it's sunshine, occasionally it's sunshine, but mainly it's raining. But you know, winter and summer, happiness and distress, honor and dishonor. You know, these are all things that are in this material world. So he said, listen, don't be worried about that. You can tolerate that. And the boy said to him, no, I can't. I've been grievously offended. This is my father, and he did this. I'm going to find out how I can actually get beyond this kind of situation. He was respectful to Narada, but so Narada said to him, he gave him this prayer. He said, okay, well, when you go to the forest, just saying this prayer. Does anybody know what prayer that he told him to sing? All the Shastric people. Come on, you can get it. We said it already today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's a very special prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Dhruva accepted that because he wanted to find out from the boss, from God, why this happened, why he's feeling upset. So he went there and he started to meditate. And for about 6 months he was meditating. And these are severe austerities that he performed. He was able to perform amazing austerities. But at a certain point, actually, God did appear to him. And when Dhruva saw Krishna or Lord Narayan appear, or Vishnu, he was completely gobsmacked. He couldn't believe that who this was. This is the Supreme Personality has come because of my austerities. And what he was looking for is he wanted a kingdom which was greater than his father's kingdom, was greater than his grandfather's kingdom, and was greater than his great-grandfather's kingdom. In other words, he wanted a whole new planetary system. That's what he wanted, because he was told by his mother, if you want something, just go to God and you pray. God is in the forest, you pray to him in the forest. So this was what he did. So he was such an amazing character that Krishna, or God, appeared to him in that situation. But when he saw God, guess what feeling did he have? Can anyone say? Yes. Because he had these material desires to have a greater kingdom, he realized, oh, this is not, these desires are not worth it. I've been desiring something which is greater than, like it's like winning the lotto 100 times, the Euro lotto or whatever it is, It's like, there's no comparison to this victory. But because he had seen what the spiritual energy of God, he realized that any of these material things were insignificant. So he was actually dumbfounded. He couldn't say anything. And this is where I'm going to take up the story, actually. He couldn't speak in front of God, because can you imagine God appearing here? What would you say? Even a very important person who'd walk into the room, everyone would feel kind of deference, or if the Prime Minister or the President walked into the room, everyone would stand up or whatever, But God was there, so he couldn't say anything. But God is, this is his son, Dhruva. So basically what he did was he had this conch shell, and he just touched Dhruva on the forehead, and Dhruva then could speak. In other words, he became enlightened because he touched this completely spiritual being. So I'm going to repeat now some of the experiences that Dhruva had. And I'm going to read the purport. And then we can maybe pause and take a few comments or questions. Yonta pravishya namavacham imam pasuptam sanjiva vachakila shakti dara svadamna anyanscha hasta charna shavana tvagdadin prananamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam. This is in Sanskrit and the English translation. Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." And the purport is by our founder, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, Dhruva Maharaj could understand very easily the difference between his condition before and after attaining spiritual realization and seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. He could understand that his life force and activities had been sleeping. Unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, listen carefully here, unless one comes to the spiritual platform, his bodily limbs, mind, and other facilities within the body are understood to be sleeping. Unless one is spiritually situated, all his activities are taken as a dead man's activities and ghostly activities. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has composed a song in which he addresses himself, "O living entity, get up. How long shall you sleep on the lap of Maya? Now you have the opportunity of possessing a human form of body. Now try to get up from and realize yourself." The Vedas also declare, get up, get up. You have the opportunity, the boon of the human form of life. Now realize yourself. These are the Vedic injunctions. So that's a pretty powerful message, isn't it? I'll just continue a little bit more. Thank you for coming. No, oh, definitely. Sorry. Dhruva Maharaj actually experienced that in enlightenment of his senses on the spiritual platform, he could understand the essence of Vedic instruction, i.e., that the Supreme Godhead is the Supreme Person. He is not impersonal. Dhruva Maharaj could immediately understand this fact. He was aware that for a long time he was practically sleeping, and he felt the impetus to glorify the Lord according to the Vedic conclusion. A mundane person cannot offer any prayer or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he has no realization of the Vedic conclusion. Therefore, when Dhruva Maharaj found this difference within himself, he could immediately understand that it was because of the causeless mercy of the Lord. He offered obeisances to the Lord with great respect and reverence, completely understanding that the Lord's favor was upon him. This spiritual enlivenment of Dhruva Maharaj's senses and mind was due to the action of the internal potency of the Lord. In this verse, therefore, the word svadhamna means by spiritual energy. Spiritual enlightenment is possible by the mercy of the spiritual energy of the Lord. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is first addressed to the spiritual energy of Lord. What is that spiritual energy called? Hare. So you see us chanting a lot, Hare Krishna. So that's what we're doing. We're calling on the spiritual energy of the Lord. The spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders and accepts his position as an eternal servitor. So I'll just repeat that again because it's so important. The spiritual energy acts when a living entity fully surrenders, that's not so easy to do, and accepts his position as an eternal servitor, as a servant. And that's in all religious scripture. When a person places himself at the disposal or order of the Supreme Lord, that is called Sevanmukha. At that time, the spiritual energy gradually reveals the Lord to him. So we're getting kind of a picture here of how we understand the Lord, that the Lord appears and then it reveals. Without revelation by the spiritual energy, one is unable to offer prayers glorifying the Lord. Any amount of philosophical speculation or poetic expression by mundane persons is still considered to be the action and reaction of the material energy. When one is actually enlivened by the spiritual energy, all his senses become purified and he engages only in the service of the Lord. At that time, his hands, legs, ears, tongue, mind, genitals, everything engage in the service of the Lord. Such an enlightened devotee no longer has any material activities, nor has he any interest in being materially engaged. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti, or devotional service. That's bhakti yoga. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and shastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning the senses are engaged in a mechanical way, but after realization they are engaged in spiritual understanding. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So maybe I'll start. Is there any comments, any questions on that, on what I've just read so far? The reason that I chose that verse is is to show us the positivity of spiritual life. We've been doing some Bhagavad Gita classes here recently, and they've been very powerful. But they've talked about, and we've been discussing some of the things which prevent us from experiencing spiritual life, and some of those things are like from our previous karma, from our previous activities in this world, or from previous lifetimes. It can be the modes of nature, the goodness, passion, ignorance. There's constantly sometimes we wake up in the morning, we just don't feel like doing anything. Sometimes we wake up and we're feeling, yes, now today's the day. Sometimes we wake up and we just want to meditate. There's different modes constantly acting. So there's our karma is acting on us. We have a kind of an ability to do a certain thing within a certain capabilities. Despite what all these gurus say, the professional gurus say that you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want, within parameters. It's kind of it's a little bit of a false kind of dichotomy, but at the same time, spiritually, and this is why I'm getting onto this point about spirituality, is because spiritually we can, in that sense, but we can only do it from a particular position. And that position is, can anyone say, it's as a servant? Yeah. Because a lot of the problems that occur to us is because we're trying to take the position of a master. We're trying to be the controller. Most of us are trying to get a result in this world, and usually we're trying to get a result just to satisfy our senses, so that I can be rich, wealthy, famous, important person in the world. All these motivations for this particular one body. That's the motivation that's there. So spiritual life is beyond that. Spiritual life is on the platform of the soul. So that's the reason that we want to talk about this here, is because we want to spend more time in the soul department. And the soul department is a very exciting department. It's the department of extreme bliss, knowledge, eternality, a real feeling of eternality. And instead of dwelling, which, as I was saying, we have been a little bit on the more negative side, which we do have to deal with, but this is the real motivator, is so that we can actually experience what the spiritual platform is. And then we experience that in relation to God, because God is the original supplier of, the original source of everything. It's because of God that we have any life at all, because we don't own anything. When we leave this world, what have we got? Who leaves the world? Who were we? What was this all about? But when we reconnect with God, then that's when all the knowledge comes. Krishna gives us all his knowledge. And he's like the supplier. Supply, that's not the word. He's the source of any happiness that we have. But we have to learn how to develop this bhakti in order to experience that. The bhakti is performing activities to please God. Previously, we were performing activities to please ourselves, to please our sense of worth, our sense of entitlement, our sense in this world. And the problem with all of those things is that it's lived out in the world of birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and has an end. It has a life expectancy of very, very short. So any of those activities that are going on in that way, we are trying to reduce those activities as much as we can, and we're trying to perform activities on the spiritual platform. Now you might ask yourself, well, how can I do that? I've got a job, I've got this to do, my boss is going to say this. How can you actually do this in this world? And as we know, I was actually going to choose one of those negative verses again about what this world is like in Kali Yuga. You know, it's full of faithlessness. Most things going on in this world, there's no understanding that God exists. It's just, you know, it's just, you get on there, economic development. That's another one of these things. Economic development is talking about growth. You know, we have to have economic growth. But if we keep on growing at the state we're going on at the present moment, the economic growth that's needed is 1.7 times the amount that the planet is able to produce. You know, so for all the governments to be happy and all the citizens to be happy, you know, you have to have all this growth all the time. You can't do it. It's physically impossible. But actually, the world is set up in that way, which it can fulfill everybody's needs. It's actually set up that way. There's no shortage of anything in the world. The only thing that's a shortage of is of spiritual knowledge. That's what's preventing the world. Because if we were spiritually realized, we would just use what we need. You know, we wouldn't be constantly trying to feed what we greed. You know, what our greed wants. What we're told, we're told from the consumer society that we need so many things, which we don't need. And when we think we need them. So we're indoctrinated into thinking we need things which we don't want. So we exploit the planet to do that. And we want to go to another planet. What do you think we're going to do there? We're going to do the exact same thing. Because we haven't purified our existence here in this world. So that's what we want to do. So that's why there's the dire necessity in this age is Krishna consciousness or God consciousness for people to actually learn how to live here. We're having a discussion downstairs about our new project in Dublin, which is we're trying to develop I'm not going to say it's a self-sufficient community, but we want to develop a community outside Dublin which is protecting the cows, which is where we're growing our own food, so that we can show an example of how to live in harmony with the earth. Now that's easier said than done. It's very good to say that in paper. I could come up and give a whole lecture on this, how wonderful, how we should do this. But the last couple of years we had a place in Newbridge where we farmed, and it was the most transforming experience for me in my many years here. It was incredible because I could see how the earth produces. It only produces at a certain time. How it grows in the first 6 months of the year, unless it's been messed around by the weather conditions, which again are being brought about by, you know, our involvement in the world. But it was fascinating to see how it works on the cycles of the sun until the 22nd of June when the sun is rising. That's when the seed grows and, you know, and it starts, and then eventually starts to fructify after that time. You know, the cycles of the planet, if we can live in conjunction with those cycles, we will be much happier, but we will see also this incredible force that's in existence in the world. Today, I go to Tesco's or Lidl's. If I want to get some food, you know, I just buy it, you know. And so I have no idea there's this amazing thing that's just going on, which is producing all this food, which has been set up by God. Even when I was living in Dublin for many years, and then I went to Fermanagh in Ishrath, the home of Shri Radha Govinda. And I remember the first few days I was there, and I used to row across to the island in the morning time, and it was in the autumn, so it was dark at that time, and usually the autumn moon is incredible because it's very bright. I was rowing across in the morning time, and the light of the moon was unbelievable. It was almost like daylight at 4 in the morning, 4:30. It was an incredible experience, but I'd never even looked at the moon when I was in the city, so I wasn't aware of the incredibleness of the universe, how the universe is functioning, and how we're only a part of that universe. You know, we're not as science would have us believe that we're the products, the end product of science. The evolution is coming now. Now it's us, and we're in control, and we can do anything, and we're creating the next. You know, all that's I won't use bad, but I'll just say BS, you know. You know, and it's incredible the incredible pride that is there in science. We're controlling this, we're controlling that, we can do this, we can do that. Now, we have to give some credit. It's all of these things are coming from God as well, and you know, and as regarding other planets, there's other planetary systems that are spoken of in the Vedic scriptures, which are called the heavenly planets, where a lot of these things are just taken for granted, like intergalactic travel through vimanas or airplanes. You know, that's taken as normal, and there's descriptions of that in the Vedic scriptures. So, you know, we're not knocking all of these things can still be used in God's service, you know, but the belief that we are the controllers and we are creating the next future, that's where the problem is. And because one of the most important things to understand spiritual knowledge, and it's right from the basis, and I say it all the time because it's something which I really, really always try to, and don't succeed in very often in remembering, and that is humility. Because when we have humility, then we're able to understand our very tiny position in this universe, and we're able to act on the basis of that position as well. And because when we're humble, then we can see that there's much greater forces than us, and that we're able to allow God into our lives. But when we're not humble, then we think that we're the controllers, we're controlling the world, we're economic developing this, we're creating this new station in Mars or in the moon, wherever it is. These are the type of stupid things that we do. We're wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars on. So we can say, our planet, or we're the best country because we got to the moon first. You know, whereas there's other, it's just like a madman's, you know, it's like it's a complete madman's activity. It's, you know, anyway, I won't get too, but this is what happens. So this is why we're trying to highlight this energy, this spiritual energy that Dhruva actually appreciated and Dhruva actually experienced. And this is why I wanted to give that class about this, is because this gives us the greatest knowledge, the greatest bliss, and it gives us the greatest sense of self-satisfaction that is available anywhere on the planet. These prayers were set up millions of years ago by great sages and saints, and they were specifically directed for us here in Kali Yuga, so that we could get access to them, and we could start to experience what this is like. It's not a confusion. I mean, I remember when I was a kid thinking, and for many years afterwards, wondering, what is this all about? This doesn't seem to be any meaning to this. It just seems to just go on, and you know, I'd hear some religious scripture which didn't seem to really do it for me, and anyway, I would hear the religious scripture, but then I would see absolutely the opposite going on. You know, I would hear about we should love our neighbor as ourselves, and yet everybody was backbiting everybody else, and everybody was trying to get one over on everybody else. And love the neighbor as thyself. You know, no, it's I, me, mine. Whatever I can get for me, my country, my this. You know, that's what I was experiencing. So it was incongruous. So who am I meant to believe? So if I throw my lot in with the materialist, means I get a good job, I get a good this, I do this, I become wealthy, I have a nice house, nice wife, nice children, nice this, nice this, nice this. These things are there, and they're actually, you know, because we often experience that the person who has all these nice things, then they get divorced, and then it's not so nice, and then they have to pay all the alimony to the next person, and then suddenly the difficulties start kicking in there as well. You know, the so-called nirvana that we're promised with all these things doesn't seem to work out that way. I remember I was actually in university. I was talking to the professor. She was a doctor. Highest in her department, and you know, she was everyone would go to her for this, you know, the final word and something. But she said to me that, you know, people think that this is everything that you should get, but I tell you, I'm experiencing it now, and I'm not happy. You know, I'm not happy. She was the head of the department, the doctor of this, and I could see like she wasn't happy. She just wasn't. I mean, she was honest enough to admit it. I thought that was pretty good. But so, you know, we're being sold this pup. Everyone knows that phrase. Probably not everybody knows it, but you're sold a pup. In other words, you're told you're going to get something really good, but what you get, oh, wait a minute, this is only a pup. It's meant to be, you know, it's meant to be much better than that. But this is what we're being sold all the time. And there's huge advertising industries selling it to us day in, day out. And there's whole governments selling it to their citizens that, no, you're this very special race. You know, you're the most important people in this world. You know, you should go and work very hard for this. This is all illusion, you know. So the importance of understanding this spiritual energy is, you know, it cannot be underestimated. And this is the way in which we do it, by hearing these scriptures and discussing what's said in them. So I'll stop there again. Is there any comments anyone would like to ask? Any questions? Any from what we've been speaking about? Yeah.
To me, like, kind of an important thing, like, for happiness is, like, freedom. And, like, that seems to somewhat contradict, like, the idea, like,
I kind of need to give you a microphone.
that seems to, like, the whole idea of eternal servitorship,
Oh yes,
that seems to contradict, like, freedom.
yes,
Like, the idea that we can't be free.
yeah.
Right, and like the kind of the goal is like liberation, right? Moshe. Or I don't know, is that the goal? But,
No, but it is a goal. It is a goal. Yeah.
yeah.
But maybe let me take you up on your first part of the question. I think that's a very, very good question. That first part is that, did you get that question? Like, you know, we're meant, like the whole goal is, where is the real freedom in that sense if you're always going to be a servant? You know, where is that? You know, and I would even say that there is some spiritual systems which will say that, yeah, well, no, that's the situation, that's it, you're the servant, and you will find fulfillment in that, and that's, you know, that's where it is. Now, to a certain degree, that's true. When we don't know what it's like to be a servant of God. Our understanding of servitorship means that, you know, somebody gives us the minimum wage, and we have to work off for forever for the minimum wage, while the other person is creaming off all the profit. You know, so there's that kind of, you know, an image that sometimes is brought up when we use the word servant. But servant in the spiritual sense can be a sense of also almost equality, you know. There's 5 different primary races. Now this is philosophically, this sometimes takes many lifetimes to understand, but there's 5 primary races in which you're a servant, you're a friend of God, you're a parent of God, and you're a lover of God. This philosophy, and this is why I continually took this philosophy, as you know, I've been studied and examined a lot of different spiritual systems, all which are equally valid in that sense. But there is much more explanation in this of what it is like to be a servant and how one becomes in very intimate relationship with God in that situation. So
a person isn't only a servant, I guess.
yeah, it's such a degree that, like, for instance, in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam, or maybe it's I think it's the 8th canto. Bali Maharaj is the greatest servant. He owns the whole world, and he's considered to be the greatest servant because he gives body, mind, and words. He serves God, and so he gave God everything that he had, but still, God wasn't satisfied. So he said, "Well, put your foot on my head," but the spin-off from that was that in his next life, Bali Maharaj owned even a greater planetary system, and God was the doorkeeper of that system. You know, so there's a very intimate relationship that happens there, and that you often see in our deity forms. We Panchatattva here, but also we have Radha Krishna. the whole understanding of Radha Krishna will give us the more deeper levels of what that understanding is of what our relationship is with God. You know. But that was an excellent question, though. But also, were you going to say something else? Was it? Oh, well, the moksha, yeah. Moksha is actually an interesting area that it's considered the first before servitorship is moksha, and most devotees they don't want to accept moksha because moksha means that it means that you're out of the birth and death and birth and death and birth and death. While we're still attached to the body, we will still continue to get different bodies one after the other, and the very deep samskara. A samskara is an impression from many other lifetimes, and it's the deep samskaras is that we think that that's all there is. So we only relate to things on that level. So moksha really means just to be beyond that, where we have freedom from that. We're not. It's like a relief. We're not being forced to take birth and death again. But it's only an initial stage, because the real stage where we get beyond all of that is the stage of bhakti, of love of God. So bhakti is bhakti is the real stage where we can actually go beyond moksha. Any other comments? Any other questions? Anyone wants to ask anything?
Like we're under the illusion, are we not, that we're not servants now? We are, because we're serving our senses
Yeah.
externally.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. This is a good point, is because the whole idea is for freedom. We think we want to get free, but actually we're being dictated to by our senses all the time. It's like the eye, ear, tongue, touch, smell. We're dictated by the senses. I want to taste something, so immediately, like if I'm hungry, I'll go to the restaurant. Where's that restaurant? Suddenly all my senses are taking me to that restaurant. Or it's like that. And this is a very advanced stage actually, but this is the stage that we get in spiritual life, whereby we can control our senses and our mind. That's actually the stage that we need to, or that we're aspiring to get to. And all along the way, Krishna is revealing to us how to do this. And not only Krishna, but also the guide, the spiritual master, the person who is advanced in spiritual knowledge, can give us this information. And that's another reason that surrender is important, because usually we have this understanding that I can work it all out myself. I'm able to sort it all out. Now we have that's our intellect. We should use that. If you have a good intellect, use it really well, in the service of God. But it's not just the intellect. It's also the heart. We are the soul. That's who we are. So we use that in the servant of God, as a servant of God, and then we will actually be able to control the mind and control the senses in a proper way. So these are higher stages of yoga. This is what people would go to the mountains for millions of years ago, just so to be able to control the senses like that. But in this age it's not, and that's why this Bhagavatam is there for us to do that, is to learn how to control our senses so that we can direct our soul to the spiritual dimension. One of the reasons I took this verse, and it's kind of like a personal reason as well. I remember when I heard for the first time the spiritual knowledge, I was very fortunate in that sense, that it gave me a huge impetus to take to spiritual life. I was studying philosophy at the time, and I was studying different religious systems, and then I heard from some person who was very advanced in this knowledge, and somehow or other, despite my fallen condition, they were able to deliver to me this knowledge as well. That subsequently I was able to take this up as a path for the so many years ever since, and I'm still kind of going on that fuel for that time. It's not as if it's a sudden zap of energy or anything like that, but it can be that way where we become so enlivened when we're hearing, and Krishna then is the super soul. He starts to dictate everything towards to give us this energy. Krishna wants us to go back to the spiritual world. He wants us to go back to be there, because that's our original position. So he starts arranging things in the material world so that we will see that this is the sign, this is the path to go to. And he does that in all different spiritual systems. He's not limited to a spiritual system. So that's why you have people having revelations in Christianity and Islam and Buddhism, all the different systems that are there. You know, when Krishna sees that determination in the living entity to want to go back to the spiritual realm, he moves, in another phrase, he moves hell and high water to make sure that you actually get this knowledge. So oftentimes, what happens with Dhruva? Can anyone say? Can anyone say the next part of the story with Dhruva? What happened, or what God said to him then? God said to him a very important thing. I'll say it because oh yeah.
When he came back after the 6 months stay in the forest, he received a welcome beyond any king.
Yeah. That's right. That's good. You've gone ahead on the story. That's the next part. Yeah, that's very good. But straight, what actually happened is that God said to him, is that you will not see me again in this lifetime. You know. So in other words, he had got this experience, and the spiritual experience is very important, you know, to get and to give. And every one of us here can give this spiritual experience to others. You know, it said that there will never be one more dear to me than the one who gives this experience to my devotee. Nor will there ever be one more dear. So a way in which we serve God is to try to give this experience of spiritual life to others, to get it ourselves, and then to give that to others. That's very, very important. So the reason that I'm saying that is that we may get some experience in spiritual life, and it said, it was one of the other, probably no one can remember it now at this stage, but there was 2 processes that were said in the purport. Can anyone remember what was said, a way which we practice spiritual life? There was 2 ways. One was through rules and regulations, and then eventually it was through spontaneous activity. So generally God will then give us some practice. He appeared then, but then he left. He didn't appear. He wasn't there in person. But that's like us. We have practice then. We may not be on the spiritual platform then, because just like I said there, when I think everybody related, when you get up early in the morning and you don't feel too, you don't think that you're not thinking of God at that time, for instance. You're like thinking, oh no, I have to get up, whatever it is, that's the experience that you have. But somebody who's on the spiritual experience, they're experiencing God all the time, So we're not on that level yet. So we're on the level of practice. We're practicing getting there. And that's what the sadhana bhakti is about. So we have to practice that diligently, and that will help us. It will attract God's energy to us. Krishna will see, oh, this person really is determined. And that's the price of spiritual life, is our determination. We have to be very determined. We really have to not take no for an answer, because we have so many inbuilt negativities which are preventing us from making spiritual progress. So real spiritual knowledge and spiritual help is helping us get rid of those things which are holding us back. Is there any other questions or any other comments? I'll take one. Yeah. Thank you.
So, surrender, right? You
Surrender.
talk about surrender.
Yeah.
So, the way you surrender, the way I'm surrendering for many people over here, everyone has a different way or different style or different steps to surrender.
Yeah.
You might be certain steps ahead, maybe I'm just behind few steps.
Mm.
So, what's the best way? What is the first step to surrender completely?
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you some examples. Right?
Mm.
So, many times it happens that completely surrender, but the moment next problem comes, I thought, okay, let me take a control of the problem, okay, and let me try to solve the problem. So I'm trying to take the control of the problem, and we just said that we are trying to become a controller.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
the problem comes, it goes away. The next problem comes, it goes away.
Yeah.
The moment it comes, we start taking the control of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that is where the surrender goes away. Because if I'm surrendered, I know that there is someone maybe who looks after the problem, solve the problem. But let me continue on my surrender way. And the moment that problem comes, I'm literally distracted from my surrender and taking full
Yeah.
control of the problem.
Yeah.
So then again, okay, now let me go back to my surrender rate and then again surrender. So what's the first steps or what's the best way to surrender?
Well, I definitely think you have to have knowledge of what's going on there, you know, and what's going on is that we're being tested. Our surrender is being tested. You know, it's actually constantly being tested, and because in the spiritual world everyone is surrendered, and if we go to the spiritual world and we're not surrendered, it would be a disturbance. So this place is a kind of a place where we're tested to see how surrendered we are, and that eighth canto is very important as well. There's different types of surrender. There's the surrender of Gajendra, the elephant, who was he was caught by a crocodile in the water, and he was the king of the elephants, but he couldn't release himself from that surrender. But then eventually he tried for 100 years to do so, but then he prayed. Eventually he prayed, he offered this flower, and then Krishna came and helped him. So that's surrender when you're in trouble, you know. The next surrender was the surrender of the demigods when they were trying to get the nectar in the milk ocean, and they were churning and churning and churning, and they had to perform so much activity, you know, but they knew at the end of it they would get the nectar, and God would give them the nectar. So they were surrendering so that they could get something. You know, that's another type of surrender that we have. Lord Shiva is a complex one, but it's surrender in curiosity. He wanted to see Mohini Murti because during that churning, Mohini Murti was the most beautiful personality that was there, and it was God who was appearing in that way. So he wanted to see that God. So then God appeared, and then he realized that, oh my God, I am very, very tiny in comparison. But the last surrender was Bali Maharaj, who I mentioned. And of course, ironically, like what happens regularly in the Bhagavatam, Bali Maharaj was the king of the demons. So a demon was actually the example that Krishna gave as somebody who surrendered completely, because he gave everything to Krishna. So that will be surrendering throughout our lives will be a fact. The more that we are able to actually surrender. Now, but it's not a fact, though, that sometimes we do have to deal with problems, because in the practical world we have to do that as well. So sometimes it might be our nature that we're meant to do those things. But we ultimately have to offer that up to God and realize that it's God is in control, you know, and we can't do anything. We can try our best and then depend on God. So we have to take that position then. But yeah, good question. Draupadi, she's another one. Yes, she completely surrendered in that way. Yeah, great example. Yeah.
The time we take the
Yes.
control of our senses,
Yeah,
and we have to get out of that mood.
yeah.
Something about it. And Maya is very strong.
Maya is very strong. Yeah, she's Krishna's energy. Yeah, was it um, was it my Mama? Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond it. So that's why all these classes are about surrender and trying to learn how to surrender and trying to do our best, and to get encouragement to surrender as well, But one of the prices of the surrender is eternal happiness. Like, the Bhakti Yoga is blissful. Like initially we have to do it because we have to do it, and we have to do it in practice. But ultimately it becomes spontaneous, and then that whole activity is different. We're doing it because we love doing it. It's the most blissful thing we can do. That's where we want to be. That's where we want to get to. And that then that's funny. I had another verse I was going to talk about as well, but just on that stage of Bhakti Yoga, there's another phrase, another verse. Krishna says that whoever, accordingly as they surrender unto me, I reward them. No, it's not that one. It's I give them the intelligence to those who are devoted and surrender unto me with love. I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So when we get onto that level, on those levels, then there's a constant reciprocation going on between you and God. Krishna's giving you more and more energy. He's giving you more and more power. And the reason he's giving you more and more power is because he knows you won't abuse it. Because he can see that you're humble. He understands you're coming from the position of humility. Then he will give you more power to help others, and also to go into the higher stages of love of God. And in fact, that a very advanced person can be in the spiritual world, even while in the material world, because they have reached that spontaneous position in relation to God. They're actually acting with God, even while being here. And there are people like that there here among us, actually. And they're very valuable personalities to be in touch with. And then there are people who are very simple personalities, but they're exhibiting symptoms of complete surrender as well. They may be cleaning the temple here or something. If we develop the eyes to see, we can see divinity everywhere. And we can see people who are exhibiting this symptom, even though they may not appear to be very divine, but because of their surrender, their inner surrender, and they can be an example to everybody. One example of that was when Srila Prabhupada, he's our founder Acharya, he was in Vrindavan, and every morning this lady used to come and bring the water for the deities at 4 a.m. It was freezing cold, and everybody used to make way for her, but she was a very simple lady, and Prabhupada told all the devotees, because of this service that she's doing, she's going to go back to Godhead, she's going back to the spiritual world, because he could see that this person has this surrender. Only one who is actually surrendered can see the surrender in somebody else, because they know what that surrender is. But again, these are all, this is why I wanted to talk about this verse, about the actual divine vision of how it's awakening from the dull senses. We've spent enough time with the dull senses, the senses being uncontrolled, inability to do anything, to see anything. But when we do get this opportunity to hear the scripture, to discuss the scripture, we're getting this, we're powering up our batteries, and they're eternal batteries, to actually to learn how to see, in reality, to see the spiritual dimension. So we're doing that during this exercise, just by the simple activities of hearing and chanting, hearing and chanting, hearing and chanting, and then when we do that in practice, we may not experience it all the time, but when we practice that, and this is the whole idea. This is what goes, from your question, you know, because it does seem like we're eternally conditioned, you know, because every time, okay, now I'm surrendered, but then we say, oh, I wasn't really that surrendered, you know, but we do make that advancement, and then it becomes onto the spontaneous platform, and we're doing it out of love, and we're very, very, you know, we're experiencing the bliss of Krishna consciousness, and then it's spontaneous. We're not even worried, you know, we're not even thinking we're on that, and that's when all the fun begins. So I'll stop there. Thank everyone for listening attentively. Some excellent questions, and you know, there's plenty more to ask. There's plenty more to discuss, and I'd like to hear more as well. And so now the next part of the program, we're going to have the arti. So this part we all stand up, and we address the altar, and we sing along with the Hare Krishna mantra. Shrimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.
Is there anybody else? Maybe
Girdhar told me that you are doing DT. Should I told Annapurna Prabhu? कैसे हैं Are you doing DT worship? Like anybody else? मैंने पूछा उनको तो बोले कि गाता हूँ करके कौन वो फिर उन्होंने बिल्कुल कार्क में भी बहुत अच्छा किया था करता कौन कौन ये पूछो
हरि बोल
है ना बोला ना मैंने लोग नहीं गाएंगे आप गा रहे हो
नीचे बैठ के गा सकता हूँ हारमोनियम पे गाता हूँ
हारमोनियम पे मत गाओ खड़े हो
आपको गाना है मैं तो अगर आपको तो मैं गाता हूँ
गाओगे
मैं गा लेता हूँ डीटी वर्शिप का प्लेट नहीं बनाया आपको किसी ने डीटी वर्शिप कौन कर
मनु प्रभु
तो वहाँ बैठे
प्लेट कौन बनाएगा
पता नहीं मेरे को नहीं किया ना
और दो करते थे तो नहीं है
वही बोल ओके विल टेक केयर
पूछो बोलो
प्लेट बना देता हूँ मैं जब तक
तो हरे मनु प्रभु
It's like
आगे चल जाते हैं आगे चले
जय श्री श्री पंचतत्व भगवान की शिव जय जय गौर चंदे आरती को शोभा की बजाय जय की बजाय जय गौर चंदे आरती को शोभा की बजाय गौर चंदे जानवी काटवाने जगमनलो जानवी काटवाने जगमनलो Jaya Mukunda शिव शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे करताल 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 माधुरा मृदंगं गाये परम रसाल माधुरा चंद्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वल कोटि चंद्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वल भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यानंद नमः। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देश। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य।
एक ही ट्यून में होगा पूरा गौर आरती
श्री अद्वैत जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरि हराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः हरि हराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः हरि यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम जय पंच तत्व 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 जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद राधे राधा गोविंद राधा जय राधे श्याम जय राधे श्याम जय राधे श्याम जय वृंदावन धाम जय राधे जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय जय गौरनिता जय गौरनिता जय गौरनिता जय गौरनिता जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव गुरु जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य स्तोत्रशत कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति अभय चरण रविंद्र भक्ति विधान स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य जगत गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव जगाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री कृष्ण कृपा मूर्ति भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से गाओ श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन मथुरा द्वारका धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की पतितपावन हरनाम संकीर्तन की श्री श्री पंचतत्व भगवान की श्री राधा गोविंद भगवान की हिताई गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to assemble devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Shri Shri Mohini Ekadasi Mahamahotsav ki jai. उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम् उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम् उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम् उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम् उग्रं वीरं महाविष्णुं ज्वलन्तं सर्वतोमुखं नरसिंहं भीषणं भद्रं मृत्योर्मृत्युं नमाम्यहम् श्री नरसिंहा जय जय नरसिंहा प्रह्लादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगाम श्री नरसिंहा जय जय नरसिंहा प्रह्लादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगाम नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते प्रह्लाद दायिने प्रह्लाद दायिने हिरण्याकाशी पूर्वक्षः हिरण्याकाशी पूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानखालये 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 शीलटङ्कान इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा इतो नरसिंहा परतो इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा इतो नरसिंहा ततो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा ततो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा हि नरसिंहा हृदय नरसिंहा हि नरसिंहा हृदय नरसिंहा नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे
चरणौ प्रपदे तव कर कमल वरण खमद्भुत शृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरण कमद्भुत शृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरण कमद्भुत शृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल वरण कमद्भुत शृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय जगदीश जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव जय उग्र नरसिंह 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 जय जय प्रहलाद महाराज 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 जय प्रहलाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक लक्ष्मीपति श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की भक्त शिरोमणि श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे
Yeah, 20 Wednesday.
Yeah, this Wednesday we have another festival here, the Mohini Ekadasi. We're starting at about 6 o'clock, so if everyone could attend, if anyone's brave enough, they can fast all day as well until dusk. So you've got till 6 o'clock then to fast, and then we're going to have a program here. We'll go on until about 9:30. Very important that you can actually get time to read the pastime. It's in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all about Lord Nishinga's appearance day and also about Prahlad Maharaj. Very important chapters in the 7th canto. Let me see. Is there any sponsors today for the feast or no problem?
No, there is Ekadashi, there's fruits.
Fruit, okay, it's Fruit Ekadasi. So we don't have our normal big fair today, but I hope you will respect down in the restaurant. Just down in the restaurant. So just on that.
It's here.
Oh, sorry. No, you just sit where you are. We're going to bring in Prashadam for you here. Okay. Just one other announcement is that we're still hoping to try to buy this land outside Dublin. So anybody who has heard about that before, that we're trying to buy this land? Hands up, anybody who's heard. Okay, it's good. The message is getting through. That's good. So we're in the process of bidding for the land. We're trying to buy land so we can have cow protection. We can have a beautiful new temple. It's these things don't happen so easy. So it needs the help of everybody. It needs the prayers, the blessings, but it also needs the practical help. So in the coming weeks, we're going to have a fundraising dinner, probably out towards that area. And we're going to be charging maybe €100 for it. Now, it's obviously you're paying quite a large price for the dinner, but it's basically we're trying to raise funds to buy the land, and once we have the land, then we can do other things. But that's the starting point. So that will be happening sometime at the end of June. But in the meantime, I'm there. If anybody wants to give a little donation, I have this card machine or whatever. Just give towards this project. We've collected, we have a bank loan and we've collected Lakshmi, and the tune at the moment is 604,000, but the target that we need to get this land is 1 million. So it's quite high, but that's the way land is at the moment. But we want to do it as a service, so that we can have a bigger area for all of you to come and participate in. A beautiful temple that we can focus on as well. It's to say we have this wonderful temple here, but we also want to have something into a little bit in the outskirts, so that we can have some other aspects like protecting cows, growing, having seminars out there. There's so many things that we want to do, but it'll depend. It'll take many years to happen, but it starts now. The next second is the most important second. So if everybody could keep that in mind, and if they can help. I'll be downstairs anyway. I have this card machine. Anyone wants to tip or wants to give a donation, please do. And to increase our figure from 604,446 to 620,000, which we want to do by the end of the month. Okay? So who's going to do that? Yay! They're one person. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay. See, this is the determination of youth. He's gonna actually reap the benefits of all of this. So he is. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai.